Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel Book Talks with Yo. My name is Yoanna and today I'm sharing with you some of my tips for writing romance. One of my absolutely favorite things to write is romantic scenes, banter, just creating attraction between the characters and giving them a sweeping love story. And sometimes these are interwoven in your plot, like they're not the main focus, they're just something that happens between the main thing of your plot, and sometimes they are, like the relationship is the center of your plot. And today I decided to share with you some of my tips for writing good romance novels and share some of my experience with writing my first novel, which happens to be a romantic one. One of the first things you need to do before you even start plotting out your romance novel is to determine the subgenre and the age group, the target age group. And this generally applies to writing all novels, but with romantic ones it's really important to know this beforehand, because particular subgenres come with certain set of expectations, and although you can experiment and surprise your readers, they will still expect some particular things going into your novel. So before you even start thinking about your characters or about your plot, try thinking, well, you obviously know your plot, but start thinking which subgenre that would go into. And some of the most common subgenres with romantic novels are contemporary romance, historical one, which on its own has its own subgenres, like Regency romance or Gothic, for example. Other subgenres generally of romantic novels would be paranormal romance or a fantasy one, and so on. There are a lot of, and you can easily research them. And as well as that, it's good to determine your target age group, like have it in mind before you start writing, because it's good to know what your readers will expect. And it's okay if your novel fits into a few subgenres. Maybe it's a historical paranormal romance or a romantic comedy that's also fantasy or something like this. Just keep in mind the common tropes and themes, POVs and etc. for this subgenre, and just keep it in the back of your mind while you're writing. For example, when I was writing my first novel, that is the romantic one, I knew it was a new adult contemporary travel romance, I think I can call it like this. And keeping this in mind really helped me when I was editing, because I realized this advice after I've already written my book, but it was alright because I've unconsciously fitted into the subgenre that I was going for. And I know that if it was written like a YA novel or like a romantic comedy or something like this, it wouldn't convey the message that I wanted to in the way it did. Okay, after you've gotten this first big step out of the way, it's time to start crafting your novel. And one very important thing that you need to keep in mind when doing that is that you need to create compelling characters in order to have a good romance novel. Why? Because if your characters are one-sided and static and just plainly boring, the readers won't be interested in them, they won't root for them, and if they don't do that, if they don't care about the characters, they probably won't care about the story. And it doesn't matter how good the banter is or the love story and how romantic it is, if we don't care about the readers, we won't care about their love. So yeah, it's very important to have good, authentic, realistic and strong characters as your main characters. And in order to do that, just give them quirks, give them strengths and weaknesses, give them hobbies, give them a past. Just don't make the relationship the most interesting or important thing about them, because again, the reader just won't care about the story. And please, just one thing that I beg you, don't make them completely depend on another person. Please make your characters independent. I mean, they can rely on that person and lean on them for help and support, but just don't make them entirely dependent on someone else, because no one likes those type of characters. This is a trope that should just be left behind, and we shouldn't go back to that. Of course, you can use this to surprise us and just make us think that this is your point, but then surprise us in a way, but just generally be careful with that. But I have a whole separate video about creating strong characters, so if you want, check it out and see my other tips. Next step, after you've figured out your niche and your characters, is to actually start building your story. And now knowing your subgenre, you'll probably know what set of expectations readers have for your type of story. But generally, with romantic stories, people expect a happy ending. But before giving your readers a happy ending, give your characters some struggles to overcome in order to make, the happy end sweeter. And not just struggles, they need to have an external and an internal conflict. The external conflict might be some rivalry between them, or physical distance, or some regulation that is stopping them, or whatever works for your story. Basically, the external conflict is what is driving your story forwards. But then your characters need to have some internal conflict as well. Something from their past, or something that is just stopping them from being together. And in order to be together, they have to overcome both the external and the internal conflict. And by overcoming the internal conflict, they grow as characters, and you can use it as character development. This is just, those scenes are amazing for improving the character's arc and showing character development and growth. My next tip is somehow connected to the previous one, and this is to give your readers this happy resolution right after the feeling of all is lost and all is doomed. And what I mean by this is that usually in your climax, the story climax, you will have the internal and your external conflict meeting in some way to create the ultimate tension, basically. And this, depending on your subgenre and on your plot, of course, that might be some argument between the characters, or something happens that separates them, or one of them has to leave, or some secrets are revealed, or someone pops in the foreground, someone else. You will see what it is for your story, but you just have to make your readers feel for your characters the strongest. They have to root for them, they have to feel with them, they have to experience the emotions that your characters are experiencing. And right after you've made your readers think that all is lost, we are sad now, this is the end, you need to give them this happy ending, and just creating this roller coaster of emotions that your readers will remember. And now, actually with my story, with my first novel, there is this thing before my happy ending. There are so many bad things happening with my main character all at once. It's just heartbreaking for me as well. Like, every time I'm feeling bad for her when I'm reading. It's like, when I was writing it, I was feeling bad. I was like, no, she doesn't deserve this. I don't want this happening to her. And then realized that I was the one making her feel that. But yeah, this is what writers do. They torture their characters. But yeah, I just, every time I'm editing this chapter, I'm just sobbing with my character, although I know what is going to happen. But this is essentially what you want. If you want to make your readers cry, you have to experience the emotions first. Okay, next tip. If your objective is not to give us love from first sight, and I hope it is not, then show us the relationship progress, show us the attraction building, show us the banter, just show us how the relationship is happening. And even if your character knows that they are falling for someone from the beginning, don't have them kissing and saying I love you by page 5, please. And yes, there are such books, but just please don't do this. You need to show us how the relationship is progressing, show us stolen glances, show us hints, show us the relationship just gradually progressing, because in real life, things don't quite work like that. You just don't beat someone on the street and by 5 minutes you know that you love them and they also love you, something like this. So it's only normal if they don't work like this in your story either. If this is not the objective of your story, of course, this really depends on your plot. But yeah, just if you want to keep your readers immersed, make the relationship progress slow, show us the characters realizing their feelings for each other, show us them becoming friends, them getting to know each other before they get to become lovers. Next important thing about crafting a good romance novel is to create an atmospheric setting. And I know that setting is very important for every book, but here it might be a deal maker or a deal breaker, because it will create the mood and the overall atmosphere for your whole plot. And with romantic stories, you want to have a very atmospheric setting. And again, depending on your story and on your subgenre, you might set it on a some small coastal town, for example, or some cabin in the mountains, or an Italian small town, or I don't know, it really depends on your story. You might set it in some Christmassy spot, because this is always so romantic. I'm just thinking about Hallmark movies now, although it's winter is over. Well, not winter, but Christmas. Okay, I'm babbling, never mind. But yeah, just setting is very important, because it will not only it doesn't only fit your story, but it also can enhance it and develop it further and help you create some really good scenes that will help you build a romantic story. And personally, with my novel, it is set in a few places, because my characters travel from the UK to Portugal on a cruise ship, so they visit a few countries. But I really use this to show how they are experiencing something together, and this is bringing them closer in a way. And last but definitely not least is to not neglect your secondary side characters. Don't neglect them. They really can move your story forward, they can strengthen the relationship, they can provide comic relief, they can even give you grounds for subplots which are important to fill your novel. And they might provide some conflict or a resolution to your character. And side characters can be honestly anyone. They can be a family member or a friend or someone from this small town if they're set there, or kids. Kids are always a good side characters for romantic novels. Even animals, although I don't know whether they are characters, but yeah, let's say that they're characters. It doesn't matter really, you see what it is for your story, but just think about using some secondary characters, because they might improve your story a lot. But one important, but very important rule with writing side characters is to not give them too much space, because in the end the readers are there for the romance between your two main characters. So that pretty much wraps up today's video. I really hope you enjoyed watching, and if you did, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on my new videos. Please let me know down in the comments what types of romance novels do you usually write. Thank you again for watching, and I really hope to see you all next time. Until then, have a smiley week. Bye!